I really look forward to our conversation. One of our partners is QuickBooks, so I just was able to listen to Rania. And I just looked at the roster that you all have put together, and it's been great. And hopefully next year we can do it in person.
Yeah, this was the idea this year, but obviously things didn't work out. But this will be a great conference in person. Amit, one thing that came up over the past couple of days is sort of the challenge we have around language when we talk about embedded finance, whether it's banking as a service or payments as a service or fintech as a service. Rapid, I mentioned this yesterday. Maybe you could talk about. Put those aside, like what you do at Green Dot and how that differs from some of these other concepts.
Yeah. Well, first, I think we're going to continue to hear more and more terminology, as I believe it's an effort to differentiate yourself in this space. And I think that's the beauty, as we're seeing a lot more innovation occurring. But let's break it down to the essence of what these are. And so I'll go into what my role is, and then I'll tell a little bit of story of what we're trying to accomplish that hopefully tries to answer the question. I joined Green Dot 8 months ago, and I am responsible for our banking as a service or banking platform services. So a funny story, I joined, I'm like, well, what is BaaS? What is banking as a service? And I said, well, let's call this banking because we have a bank, we have a platform, and we provide our services. So let's call it banking platform services. So I think you're going to hear a lot more terms: embedded finance, payments as a service. But at the end, what are we trying to do as an industry? Our mission is giving all people the power to bank seamlessly, affordably, with confidence. And how do we do that? Well, we have a direct-to-consumer business. We have one of the largest money network retail networks in the country. We have world-class partners, which I'm fortunate that's my responsibility. And we have a bank charter to control our own destiny. And so that sounds great. If I was talking to my neighbor, they'd be like, wake me up now. Like that's boring. What does that really mean? So I'll take us all on a little bit of a journey. And so I traveled 2 weeks ago, and I got an Uber, and Peter, who was at Uber before, you spoke to earlier. We've had a long-term relationship with Uber, and I think Uber is amazing because for me, it's seamless. I find a car, I book it. When I get out at the airport, I don't think about the payment, so they're seamless for me as a consumer. For that driver, they're able to either right away say, "Hey, pay me now," or it can go into their other bank account or their Green Dot Uber bank account. So for them, it's seamless. So that is one example. One of our great partners, Uber, and what we're doing. So if that's BaaS, if that's embedded finance, that's an Uber experience that we're providing the financial services for. I have a 14-year-old daughter. So I live in a town called Danville. So she walks to downtown Danville. The other day, she sends me a text. "Hey, Dad, I'm at the yogurt shack. Can I have some money?" So I sent her $20, probably too much, via Apple Cash. Green Dot does the money movement for Apple Cash and is the issuing bank for the P2P. So when that money lands on Lily, my daughter's Apple Cash account, she's able to tap that yogurt shack, and instantly, seamlessly, she's able to get her yogurt and not, and be happy about it and not have to worry about it. As Rania talked about, small to medium businesses really power this country. So that yogurt check is a small to medium business. We have partnerships with QuickBooks and with Cabbage. We provide the banking services for both of them. And so if that yogurt check is a Cabbage or QuickBooks, and they have Money by QuickBooks or QuickBooks Cash, they're able to seamlessly move money. And then, just two other examples is we're also focused on spending, savings, and investing. And so we have a partnership with Stash. And so Stash, if you go to the Apple Store, you have a Stash account, and you go, buy an iPad there, you get a fractional ownership in Apple. So it's teaching people the power of investing. And then lastly, when you walk into the largest retailer in the world, Walmart, we have Walmart money cards there. You can add cash or take out cash. And our money network is available to 95% of Americans within a 3-mile drive. And so at the end, what are all these terms trying to do? At the end, it's trying to save people time. Mm-hmm. And that comes back to convenience. So I think all these terms are trying to get to that essence. And the opportunity for all of us is to leverage our assets to help people achieve their financial hopes and needs.
I like that vision. And language does get in the way, obviously, when we talk about some of these things. So the same thing with fintech, the word fintech. But there's so many new things that are happening, all this innovation out there. What do you see as the main driver of this type of innovation and that's happening in the market?
I don't know where I read this, but this quote and I should go back and find this quote and attribute it properly. But the quote was, fintechs are not disrupting, the big banks or the legacy financial infrastructure. It's consumer demands. And so what's fascinating here is, at last time we spoke, we talked about that there's in my opinion, three things that are really driving things. Well, first was the fact that we all carry a computer in our pocket with a smartphone. So that to begin with. But then the advent of cloud computing, the continual digitization of cash or the war on cash, and how seamless e-commerce solutions have become. So those three things really are the consumer saying, hey, if I can do this sitting in my house and easily, seriously, if an Amazon Flex driver can come and achieve the last mile, which, by the way, we provide the financial services for Amazon Flex drivers, and I can get that package either same day or next day. Why am I waiting for my funds? Like Rania talked about earlier, like instant funding, that's the goal. And it's hard, right? Because of the fraudsters and risk, et cetera. So at the end, what's really driving all this innovation is consumer demands. Like you should not have to wait, to be able to move money or get the goods and services at your doorstep. And so I think that's what's really happening. And this all comes down to how quickly people can move, but also doing it prudently. One of your other guests earlier in the conference talked about, if you're designing products for everyone, you're not designing products for anyone. Or if you're designing products for everyone, you're not designing products for anyone. Right. And so I think that's really, really critical. That how do you distill down what the true need is? And I think that's what this world of exploding of fintechs, I think that's what people have been very good at, is being able to say, okay, let's get back to first principles. What are we trying to solve for? And you don't have necessarily a legacy business, that some of the other folks in financial services have to protect. And so as an example, think about the rise of P2P. Well, Clear Exchange was around for a long time that could move money bank to bank, but people didn't understand because branding matters and experience matters. And so, I always come back to it's all about saving people time, and that's convenience. And so that's what's really, in my opinion, disrupting this whole market, is being able to provide a great experience and making it super, super easy and saving people time.
I appreciate and like the way you described that, Amit. We've heard over the past 2 days also about the pandemic's impact on the market. Given where you sit in the ecosystem, what have you guys seen as the effect of the pandemic on consumer behavior?
Yeah, I think the CEO of Microsoft had a great quote in the middle of the pandemic, and essentially said that we've seen 2 years of I think digital transformation in 2 months. And there's another article that talked about how Google had tried work from home, but it was never a high priority. So, but then the COVID hit, and I was like, okay, it is the priority.
Everything changed, right?
Everything changed. So, when I was at Apple, and we were working on Apple Cash, and we deployed it, we did a lot of work at vending machines, which is, why would you do work at vending machines? Well, we did work at vending machines because you don't want to be the person trying to fumble around with a new technology and you have a line behind you. Like, I was at Oakland's airport right when Apple Pay had launched, and I was trying to use Apple Pay and was trying to explain it to the merchant. And it was 5:30 in the morning, and I had a very unhappy person behind me who just wanted their coffee. And so we did a bunch of work at so we did a bunch of work at vending machines, because these vending machines now have a beautiful screen, and you could provide direction, education of how to either leverage Apple Pay and provide a discount. And so I think what COVID and the pandemic has done is, one, it forced people to say, hey, I don't need to go to the bank branch. I don't need to go into the store. I want to be able to do what I want to do from the comfort of my home. There was I believe it was a Fiserv study or an FIS study that said in the pandemic, 1 of 5 Americans added another bank account. And so what you're seeing is people have, inertia strong, but the pandemic forced people to change behaviors. And so we're seeing that, right? What we're seeing is, from all walks of life, people are saying, hey, how do I digitize? How do I make this easier? How do I adopt tools that, is better than what I currently have? And then what you're seeing is, 10 years ago, people really, it seemed the numbers said that people had one bank account. And over the last 5 years, you're seeing a lot more secondary bank accounts that slowly became primary. And that slowly actually became much faster during the pandemic because of the ability to put out new features sooner, quicker and quicker. So that's what we're seeing, is that just the speed of change, the speed of innovation, as we talk about internally, is just increasing. And so that, to me, was a huge, the ignition, or one of the big drivers was the pandemic.
Amit, also another theme that we spoke about, particularly to some of the platform providers, is like sort of the trade-offs between being a platform and being very niche oriented. So how do you design and develop your offerings so that different clients with different demographic targets, different needs, still work cost effectively from a single banking as a service platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. Back to the beginning, we talked about that. We have at Green Dot, we have a direct-to-consumer business. We have a retail business, and we have this banking platform services business. In addition, we also have a tax business, and we also have a pay card business to be able to, early wage access. And so, I think one of the huge strengths we have is expertise across all of those businesses. But at the end of the day, what's it about? Opening accounts and seamlessly moving money. So how do we think about what features and how to do it cost effectively? Well, the beauty is, we can get all 5 people plus the head of the bank in a room, a virtual room, beautiful Zoom, within, a day's notice. And so if we're actually saying, hey, I think everyone's going through their FY22 strategic planning, all that kind of long-term planning over the last few weeks or even now. If we're talking about, hey, where do we want to be in the next 5 years? You set that goal and march to it. But if we have a partner, or if we see something changing in the environment, we can get all those people in a room and talk about, hey, what's the impact on this business, on your business? How can this help your partner? That's how we've been doing it. And because I'll tell you, the knowledge that our tax business has compared to our retail business is instrumental in us designing products. Because then you can say, oh, I'm not just building a business for building a feature for one of my verticals within banking platform services. Say, hey, if I build this here, how can our retail business use it? How can our tax business unit? So that is the power, and that's how and that's been an evolution, frankly. Our management team has essentially turned over in the last 18 months. And so this sort of focus to be able to essentially drive that operational leverage. Because if you're just building features, if we build a feature for the gig worker and that can't be leverageable by parts of it for SMB, then that's just added cost, added time. And in this, we talked about the speed of innovation. If we're not developing products quickly, then at the end of the day, there's too much innovation around here. And I do believe that one of the big benefits we bring to the table is our scale. We have deep experience in enterprise partnerships. And so while you do see a press release every day of a new funding round, of a new platform provider, we've seen a lot in regards to edge cases, in regards to how to scale. And so I think leveraging those 5 business unit heads to be able to come in a room and say, hey, is this something we should invest in, is how we solve for that.
So there are quite a few questions that came in from the audience. I don't want to get too far off track. Some of the things you just addressed in your answer, Amit. But one person Fong asks, what's the best way for a young startup, a fintech startup, to engage with Green Dot? Do you work? I guess this speaks to who your clients are, right?
Yeah. So one thing, we are not we do not have the vision to be the platform where anybody can come and join, right? Because part of it is our bank charter. And so as I talked about at the earlier, I want to be at a place where we have the bank charter to control our own destiny. And so we talk to loads of people, but we're making our bets, because one of the other benefits that we bring is our expertise. And I don't want to get in a position, I want to help companies grow their business. If that's, a larger company or a smaller company, grow. And so what we're doing is we're analyzing what the opportunities are and saying, okay, this is a opportunity that we believe, based upon our assets and their assets, we can build a safe, secure, and profitable relationship together. And so, to answering the question, they can reach out. If you can put me in touch with that person, I can put them in touch with the folks who run our BD group.
Great. So Fong, get in touch with me. And Hirotaka asked a similar question to something you just described, which was the fact that you own a direct bank, GoToBank, and this platform. Sort of, I guess the question says, what's the value between, and you sort of addressed this in your last answer, but what's the value of having both those types of things? Because they seem to be going in opposite directions.
It would be interesting to understand how those are opposite, right? At the end, you have a platform and you have a bank and you have all these consumers and you have all these great partners. And so at the end of the day, we're providing great choice to consumers. Do they want a GoToBank account? Do they want a Money by Walmart account? Do they want a Stash account? Right. And banking is very personal. It has become very personal. Before, 20 years ago, banking was not very personal. You look at the brand, walk into a branch, and you get a debit card. And so I think the beauty is us understanding at a very detailed level those different consumer types, how they are behaving. And what now do we do? What products do we build? Like, that was our conversation we had yesterday. Is we had a topic on the table, and we had all the business unit heads and the product leads, and we said, should we do this? And we were pulling in the data to say, okay, this does make sense or it doesn't make sense. And that one was, we should investigate this more. And so if we end up going forward with that feature, it will be available to our direct to consumer business plus our partners, which is the power.
Amazing. I have so many questions here for you. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna pick one that I think speaks to to the depth of what your topic is here. And you just talked about customer experience. So what kind of customer experiences do you think there'll be demand for in the near future that we don't have currently a solution for?
I think in the near future, it's about how do you increase that instant funding. So Rania talked about it. Mm-hmm. As we run Apple Cash, you can fund Apple Cash in with a debit account, and that's essentially instant. Right now, your two ways are you use debit and it's instant, or use ACH, which can be, which used to be 3 days, but in reality, it's a day now. But there's a cost differential, there's a risk differential of that. And I believe that one of the next things, and we've seen lots of interesting things with Plaid and some other folks in the market, I believe that increasing the options of instantaneous while also leveraging the overall data to bring down fraud and risk is the next near term. And I believe that one of the interesting things that's happened is because we've had this explosion of fintechs, is there's a whole other data set that's coming in. The big banks have like EWS they use from a risk management standpoint. And I think that over the next 1 or 2 years, we're going to see a lot more ways to move money seamlessly that's safer for the consumer. And that is like a near term aspect. It's going to be hard. It's going to be bumpy. But I think at the end, that is something that is really within fintech. Consumers, they don't care, right? If it's coming from their bank and they want to be able to do something, they just want to get it done. And, when we listen to calls, people have no idea why either their direct deposit is taking a while. Like, why don't they know exactly when it's going to happen? They don't understand, hey, I just transferred this money out. Why isn't it there instantaneously? And, the US is a laggard in that space. And so I think that's going to be a really great place of consumers demand instant gratification. And we will get there. Now, it will take a little bit, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that innovation in the medium term.
Totally. And so while we're talking about the future, I'm also curious, what's your vision for the future of the banking platform?
I mean, I think we are at a new normal here where you do not need to go to a bank to get services. And so, I've been fortunate over time to when I was at Discover, we worked with the old debit man Tempo, which had decoupled debit. It looks like decoupled debit is coming back around based on some things. And so I think what's old is new. We're continuing to see, but at the end, my vision of this business and where we're going is this intersection of payments, access, and identity. And so if you look at that, that's how you get to seamless, because you have a strong authentication, the identity of the person. It's seamless to make the payment, and essentially the access to the funds is right there. That is where we are marching towards, and leveraging our own business plus our partners helps us actually achieve it, because at the end, the consumers want to, these big brands matter, trust matters in brands. And if we're able to put ourselves in the center of that and provide our services to a QuickBooks, to a Stash, to an Apple, to an Uber, there's many other companies that we can also partner with to expand our reach.
Totally. Amit, I feel like we could talk all day. I really enjoy speaking to you. Thanks for joining us at the Big Bank Theory this year.
It was a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again.